Sup, you beautiful bastards? It's Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show. Hit that like button and let's just jump into the news of the day. Starting with possibly the most important thing today, it is time to expose Markiplier for who he really is by having an in-depth conversation with him for about 2 hours and then uploading that to youtube.com/ACW in a podcast format, which, oh wow, shocker, is actually something I did just before this video, so definitely go subscribe to that channel and check it out. We talk about a lot of serious things, fun things, business things, personal things, bonking.
Try to hit me. I dare you to hit me. I dare you to hit me.
Yeah, give it a watch or a listen after today's show or you will get double bonk. Mark on one side, me on the other. He has not agreed to this, but I'm speaking on his behalf. But from that awesome, let's talk about the polar opposite, our D-bag of the day. I don't know if you have seen this. There's this video that's gone viral showing an altercation in San Francisco, California between an Uber driver and 3 passengers.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
My property.
You have to get their ass now. Now you about to get beat the fuck up. Yeah, now you about to get beat the fuck up. Now you about to get beat the fuck up. What's up?
You don't talk to my property.
This incident reportedly happened on Sunday when the driver picked up the women, but noticed that one wasn't wearing a mask. So the driver later telling reporters that he ended up driving them to a nearby gas station so that one of the masked women could buy her friend her own face cover. But saying that by the time that friend returned, the other 2 passengers were taunting and berating him for picking them up in the first place. So he decides, okay, you know what? I'm gonna end the ride, and he asks them to leave his car. We also see that the woman who snatched his phone in the viral dashcam video recorded some of the exchange herself and posted that footage to her Instagram, arguing that they refused to get out because he wanted to drop them off in what she called the middle of the hood and the freeway, right? And in our own clips, you can hear the women argue that they will not get out of the car at the gas station until their next Uber arrives.
We just said we're waiting for our Uber. We just called the Uber.
You get out and wait.
No, you're not about to let girls get out where we are.
Right, the argument continues, and then according to police who are investigating the incident, when the group did finally leave, one of the women reached into an open window to spray what is believed to have been pepper spray into the vehicle and towards the driver before fleeing, with the driver saying that the spray was so suffocating it forced him out of the vehicle and it left a lingering smell and colored residue behind. But we have also not gotten to the best part of the story. The woman who we saw assaulting the driver went on Instagram Live to stand by their behavior.
And he lucky as hell I ain't have nothing on me on mamas, because if he would have played with me, bruh, it would have been a whole different story. For real, you not about to kick me out on the freeway. All I did was take his mask off and cough a little bit, but I ain't even have corona, so at the end of the day, okay, yeah, I ain't gonna lie, that was disrespectful as I'm dead wrong for that, but it could have been avoided, period, point blank. It could have been avoided. You could have just waited and made sure we was safe. This stupid ass Uber, bruh, on mamas. That's why I take Lyft.
Right, and with all of this, you also had the woman saying that she's going to sue Uber, who, of course, condemned the group's behavior, also banned the rider from the service. And as far as that whole "that's why I take Lyft" thing, apparently Lyft saw the video and was like, nah, coming out with the statement, although this incident did not involve the Lyft platform, the unacceptable treatment of the driver in this video compelled us to permanently remove the rider from the Lyft community. Driving in a pandemic is not easy. Please wear a mask, respect one another, and be a good person. Which, I will say, amazing job, Lyft. Also, as far as the driver, he ended up actually opening up to local reporters about how Uber only offered him $20 to clean his car after the altercation, though they eventually raised that to $40 and then $120 after a bunch of pushback from him. But you also had the driver saying it really doesn't make up for the cleaning costs as well as the lost wages from all the hours he was unable to use his car. But kind of a happy ending to the story, even though it had to come from other people and not the company that this guy was working with. When people learned about this part of the story, a GoFundMe campaign was created for him and it's raised well past its $20,000 goal. Which, I will say that the GoFundMes in situations like this are always interesting because, you know, there's a certain amount of limited real cost, right? But it also often feels like these GoFundMe campaigns are like, here's a giant tip for having to deal with the worst of humanity, buddy. Like, we're all sitting down at that same restaurant and the person that's serving on us is getting chewed out by just a horrible monster person over there. And then you get the check and you're like, I got you, man. That's, ooh. But yeah, I guess where I'll end the stories with that tried and true advice. Don't be stupid. I'm not gonna ask you to not be an annoying, disrespectful monster person. I'm sure we're well past that line, but don't be stupid enough to do it while you're in an Uber where you're being filmed. You're not gonna be able to lie your way out of this when they got you in 4K. Then let's talk about some money business news, starting with Roblox. Son last week, actually for the first time, asked if I would buy him Robux, and I was like, oh, okay, so we're at this point. Though he is in no way the only person wanting to throw money at Roblox right now. With the company going public on the New York Stock Exchange today, it was the reference price was $45, though it actually started trading at $64.50. Where it ends at the end of the day, it'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, Wow. Also, in the world of entertainment, it's definitely worth mentioning that Disney Plus announced that they hit 100 million subscribers just within 16 months of launching, which, I mean, that's a huge number on its own, but for comparison's sake, Netflix didn't reach that number until 2017, which is around 10 years after it launched streaming in 2007. Though they still have Disney Plus beat by a lot with 200 million subscribers of their own. But still, this is massive and it's better than what Disney thought. They had an initial subscriber goal of 60 to 90 million by 2024. Now, in that same time frame, they're aiming for 230 to 260 million subscribers. And while yes, there are a lot of different factors at play here, including their February launch on India's Star platform, and also, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to content. And one of their strongest things right now is going to be their Marvel pipeline, which is heavily focused on direct-to-consumer. Right? WandaVision was the most streamed show in the United States in January, even reportedly outpacing viewership of Netflix's Bridgerton, which is incredibly notable because Netflix said that it was on track to become the platform's most viewed series ever. Also significant is that in January, there were only a handful of episodes of WandaVision compared to a full season of Bridgerton. And on top of that, you have movie quality. I mean, Disney Plus had the most watched title of December with Soul. So while a few years ago, I think for a lot of people that it was laughable to think that anyone could actually compete with Netflix, Disney is knocking at the door. And while they're doing it fantastically, they're also not the only competition there that's looking strong. The last thing that I'll talk about in this section are NFTs. Right, so last week, I tried to break down what NFTs were. If you're unfamiliar with them, I would highly recommend you watch that video. But yeah, the reason we're talking about NFTs today, aka non-fungible tokens, is that over the weekend, we saw Taco Bell rolling out a series of their own, with some minted themed gifs and images with Taco Bell saying that all 25 of its available tokens sold out within 30 minutes. And while reportedly each NFT started out at just under $2, subsequent bids have now put some pieces at over $3,600. And in fact, one piece is now up for sale for over $20,000. And actually something interesting is that with each subsequent sale of these NFTs, Taco Bell will actually get 0.01% of the profits, with Taco Bell saying that all the proceeds that it raises will go to the Live Más Scholarship. But, you know, this is kind of just one of the latest versions of the NFT story. You have a big company here, but I mean, for example, you had Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey in the news. The NFT of his first ever tweets now going for $2.5 million. You know, last week we also talked about Logan Paul, who's raked in nearly $6 million in NFTs. You also have the whole Top Shot ecosystem, and I kind of want to elaborate where I left things last time we talked about this space. It's a very fascinating and interesting space to look at right now. The more that I've looked into and I research NFTs, I think there is a future there that is going to primarily be based around utility. There will also, of course, be winners and losers if people are just buying things because they're like collector's items, and it's a whole ecosystem based on speculation. But I really think that the future for NFTs is utility. For example, like with Taco Bell. While the original owners of those 25 NFTs all reportedly received $500 digital gift cards, how awesome would it be if those NFTs, or maybe the next future NFTs that they release, you get exclusive access to, you know, those Taco Bell experiences that are usually reserved for big creators. Maybe it automatically gets you discounts when you get Taco Bell stuff. Maybe there's free stuff. So in addition to it being something that someone can go, that's mine, I have it, it's a collectible, they can actually get something out of it, and they can also sell it if they don't want it or they just want to make a profit. I think that's awesome, and if you're a creator, I urge you not to kind of just rush into the space. For transparency's sake, I'm currently talking to a group about doing my own personal small limited drop. With the utility of some of these NFTs being like guaranteed access to live shows, the new studio that I'm buying has a 60-person audience, and I mean, that's where I'll leave it. There are other perks, other cool things, but I don't want to ruin that announcement. Although I also want to release a one-of-one kind of skeleton key holo that features the first video I ever made, which isn't even public anymore. Yeah, I'll tell you down the road, but if you're looking at this space, I would just urge caution and research it. But from that, let's take a second to pay the bills and thank the fantastic sponsor of today's show, Keeps. You know, 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time that they're 35. And everyone's got that someone in their life, that brother, uncle, their friend dealing with hair loss. And if you don't want to go down that road, you don't have to just wait and sit idly by. Keeps helps you stop hair loss before it's too late with their scientific and affordable approach to treatments that are up to 90% effective at reducing and stopping further hair loss. And Keeps actually offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products that are out there. So some of you may have actually already tried them before, but probably never at this price. And fantastically, for a limited time, you beautiful bastards can get 50% off your order, all without having to go to your doctor's office for your prescription, because with Keeps, you can get these products delivered directly to your home. It is that easy. So if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/DeFranco, or just click that link in the description down below to receive 50% off your first order. And then let's talk about those stimmies.
When the stimmies are don't accept.
When I say mine, I don't mean me, because I don't think I qualify, nor should I, but you know, everyone else's. But actually, regarding that, the House just passed the final version of the $1.9 trillion stimulus package today, and it will now be sent off to President Biden to sign. But this, of course, happening after the Senate made changes to the first House version. The House then had to vote on the reconciled package, which, I mean, obviously this bill is huge, but let's talk about some of the most significant measures that this legislation had. It gives $1,400 per person stimulus checks to individuals earning up to $75,000 a year, heads of households, such as single single parents who make up to $112,500 a year, and married couples who jointly earn $150,000 and under, with the payments phasing out at $80K, $120K, and $160K for each group respectively. This will also provide an additional $1,400 for each dependent, regardless of age of qualifying household. It'll extend the $300 a week in federal unemployment benefits and a 15% increase in food stamp benefits through September. It'll also temporarily expand the child tax credit, so qualifying families can receive annual amounts of $3,600 for children 5 and younger, and $3,000 for those ages 6 to 17. It'll also allocate $350 billion for aid to state and local governments, give $130 billion to help schools open, as well as $123 billion for COVID-related policies such as testing and vaccine distribution. It'll also distribute billions through multiple programs aimed at helping small businesses, including $7.25 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program and $25 billion for a new program just for restaurants. It will also provide $30 billion in rent relief to low-income houses and temporarily increase subsidies for people who buy healthcare under the Affordable Care Act. Though, notably not included in this final version of the package is the $15 an hour minimum wage increase that was part of the House's first bill. And that's because the provision was removed by the Senate parliamentarian who oversees rules and procedures in the chamber and who decided that the hike could not be included in a bill passed using the budget reconciliation process. And while understandably that is going to disappoint a large number of people, it is important to know that this bill is massive and is expected to help a lot of people. And if anything, I think I'm kind of more just disappointed that it's passing along party lines with no GOP support. Makes you kind of realize, well, yes, there had to be concessions that are made because you do have moderate Democrats. You have people like Manchin who, just to say this, I've seen a lot of Democrats going after Manchin, which, hey, I get. You should also be thankful that he's there because that seat should not belong to a Democrat. Like, if you look at his state, it is amazing a Republican does not have that seat. And with a 50-50 split, every seat matters. I'm not gonna say give him a standing ovation for kneecapping policies that you want, but understand without him, you get Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. But yeah, as far as what happens next, the White House has said that Biden will sign this into law on Friday, one day after he delivers his first primetime address on the country's coronavirus response, where it's reported that he'll be discussing the bill on the one-year anniversary of the widespread pandemic closures. Also, at the risk of making today's show just too sexy, let's talk about some big, juicy policy. Because in addition to those stimmies we just talked about today, you have the Biden administration set to purchase an additional 100 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. And understand, this is actually a very big deal because the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has massively shifted the playing field both for the short term and the long term. Right before this, Johnson & Johnson had already promised to give the United States a separate shipment of 100 million doses. And so that initial shipment, in combination with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, the US should have a big enough supply to vaccinate 200 million people, or all American adults, by the end of May, which is huge on its own, but also when you consider that with just Pfizer and Moderna, there were only enough shots to cover all Americans by the end of July. So, I mean, you're changing the timeline here. And in terms of the long game, the additional 100 million doses that Biden is expected to order today will actually be distributed in the second half of the year, a move that is key for both looking ahead to the future and creating a fail-safe if Pfizer and Moderna run into manufacturing issues. And actually, as far as the rate of vaccinations, right now, Biden is well on his way of surpassing his goal of administering 100 million vaccinations in his first 100 days of office, with the CDC reporting as of today more than 93.6 million vaccine doses have been administered and 123.2 million shots have been delivered. So we have that, and then where we're going to close today is you have the US House of Representatives passing a sweeping bill that represents the largest expansion of labor rights since the New Deal. The legislation known as the Protecting the Right to Organize, or PRO Act, was passed in a 225 to 206 vote, with 5 Republicans joining Democrats. And while the bill does not create unions or change the right to unionize, it does aim to make the path to unionization easier for new groups and strengthen unions that already exist. And if this ends up getting approved, as is, among other things, it would amend a decades-old labor law to shield workers who try to form a union from retribution or being fired, create tougher penalties for employers who violate workers' rights, prevent employers from using an employee's immigration status against them while determining the terms of their employment, ban employer interference in union elections, outlaw mandatory company-sponsored meetings used by employers to lobby against union organization, override right-to-work laws that exist in more than 24 states and weaken unions by letting workers opt out and not pay dues while still being covered under wage and benefit provisions in their union contracts, and very notably make it harder for gig economy companies like Uber and Lyft to classify workers as independent contractors, which would pave the way for them to unionize. Right? And so with this, you had Democrats and unions applauding this bill, arguing that it's necessary to level a playing field slanted towards big businesses and managers, but Republicans who oppose this bill and big business groups have condemned the move, arguing that Democrats are just pandering to powerful unions, and saying that actually the act would ultimately hurt workers, undermine states' rights, and damage businesses at a time that they are already struggling. Though, notably, not all Republicans, because among the 5 who voted in passage in the House, 3 actually co-sponsored the bill. But also, if we're being honest here, I think for this to pass the Senate, you're gonna need more Republicans than I think are going to be on board. And that, because like we've seen with some of the progressive bills that the House has passed, it's hard to get through the Senate because the Democrats only have a slim majority, right? And they just don't have enough support to overcome the 60-vote legislative filibuster. You know, I will say that there's always a part of me that's like, should we talk about these things even if it doesn't have a chance to pass? And I kind of end up going, yeah, sometimes. Because if you're a cynic like me, you can sometimes look to all of Congress and be like, why aren't they doing more? And so it's important to take a look and go, oh, there are actually a lot of people that are trying. Then maybe more people look into why things aren't passing, why things aren't happening, and it affects the way they vote in the future. Because as I've constantly mentioned on this show, while yes, national elections super matter, local elections matter even more. And that, my friends, is where we're going to end today's show. Of course, whether it be with this one or anything else that stood out to you, I'd love to know your thoughts. Also, if you happen to be new to this channel, which doesn't really happen often because YouTube doesn't recommend me to non-subs that often, definitely hit that subscribe button, maybe even hit the like button, all the good stuff. Also, if you're looking for more to watch, I got that brand new podcast with Markiplier, or maybe you missed yesterday's show, you can click or tap right there or in the description down below. But with that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.